Hi there, and welcome to another knitting podcast episode. My name is Luisa, but everybody calls me Lu. And on today's agenda, I have two finished objects. I finally finished my colorwork sweater, and I'm so mad. I think I made the wrong call by deciding to stick that project because I think I saw a few stitches starting to unravel and I'm freaking out. But I also finished my lime green sweater and I'm really excited to wear it tomorrow. On top of that, I also have two new customs to celebrate finally finishing these two projects. So let's start. Oh, and I also have just one acquisition at the end. So let's start with my colorwork sweater, and this is my porcelain sweater by Lindberg. The yarns I chose for this project, let me just get my yarn basket without dropping anything on the floor. I went with a Filcolana combo for this wine color. I chose Filcolana Arwetta, which is their sock base, in the colorway 245. I can never remember if the name of this colorway is Bordeaux or Burgundy. I think it's dark Bordeaux, but don't quote me on that. And I've paired it with their Mohair base, which is called Tilia, in the colorway 382. For my contrasting color, I went with leftover yarn. So I've paired Knitting for Olive Merino together with their soft silk mohair base. My Merino colorway is called Wild Berries. And I've paired it with Plum Rose for my mohair base, my mohair colorway. So this was my color combo for this project. And I'm really happy with these colors together. The only thing I am not happy with is that I decided to stick this project. But let's start from the beginning. Last time I showed you guys this project, I was done with the body and I had just bound off the collar. I decided to go with a V-neck, hoping to give this project a lighter look. I think I got there, not entirely because I chose a pretty dark main color and the sweater also has mohair, but I think I like the look of the V-neck here. But when I picked up stitches for the first sleeve, I saw a few stitches unraveling around the sticks and I freaked out. I'm still freaking out, by the way. I avoided working on this sweater for like an entire week, and only last week I finally picked up stitches and finished this sweater. So that's what I did. This is blocked and ready to wear. It is completely finished. So let's talk about the sleeves first before we get into the whole sticking dilemma. The pattern tells you to knit a certain amount of rounds here before starting the first colorwork band, but I felt like if I just followed the pattern instructions, I would get this stockinette section here that is just main color. I felt like it was going to be too long for my liking based on my gauge and the length I usually like for my sleeves. And I didn't really like that idea. I felt like it was going to throw this entire piece off balance, let's say. So I've delayed starting this first colorwork band, and in the end I think I've actually knitted double the amount of rounds the pattern tells you to for this section here. So right now my colorwork bands on the sleeves are not aligned with the ones on the body by like half a chart or something like that, but I still think it looks nice when I'm wearing it, and I am happy that this stockinette section here, I don't think it is too long. I think it is just right. Oh, and I also did a contrasting bind off, and I think it frames the whole piece. I really like the look of it, especially now that I have this contrasting bind off on both cuffs and the hem. I think it looks really nice. But there's also another modification I've made to the sleeves. I skipped all the creases, so I decided to go with a straight sleeve with 0 decreases. First of all, because I didn't really understand the decrease instructions in the pattern. They were kind of confusing to me. It took me a while to figure out what was supposed to happen. Eventually I did, but I also changed my mind and I decided to go with straight sleeves. I'm really glad I did, because now that it's completely finished and blocked, these sleeves are not that wide on me. So I think that had I done the decreases, I wouldn't really like the look of it. The only thing that really annoyed me when I was working on the sleeves is that they are not seamless. Here, the color work, I mean. You can see where the beginning of round is, because it looks like something is wrong when you look at the motif here, the colorwork motif, because you can see a disruption in the pattern here. I think this diamond shape thing here is even more noticeable where the beginning of round here is. When you look at the leaf motif, you can definitely see it, but it isn't as noticeable as here. It's kind of annoying, but at the same time, it's under the arm. Nobody's going to see it. I don't think I will notice it once I'm wearing this sweater, so I'm fine with it. It would just have been better to have a seamless colorwork chart motif band. I don't know, but it is what it is and I'm fine with it. Now let's talk about what happened with these sticks. Let me just put my yarn basket here because it's been sitting on my lap this entire time. And for that, I think I need to take this sweater off the mannequin to show you what really happened. When I was getting ready to pick up stitches for the first sleeve, I saw like 10 centimeters of yarn, of a tail here where my sticks are, and it didn't make sense to me, so I took a closer look at it, and it was actually stitches unraveling, and I already had lost like 3 or 4 stitches right at the edge of the stick, and I freaked out. So immediately I tied a knot to secure things and not lose more stitches, and eventually I took a closer look at all my sticks and I saw the same thing happening in other spots. I didn't know what to do. I still don't know what to do. So when I was weaving in the ends of the crochet reinforcement, I just wrapped it around the edges of the sticks here to help keep things in place. This is one of the sleeves. I don't know if you'll be able to see anything unraveling, but I did this here to help secure these ends. I did the same thing here. It looks ugly, yes, but if that means my stitches are safe from unraveling, I am fine with that. This is the other side of the armhole, and you can see, yeah, it doesn't look, I don't know what to say. I'm not happy with this. It looks messy. I don't really mind the look of it because it's on the inside. What I'm worried about is once I start wearing this sweater, some holes are going to pop up where the sticks are because my stitches are unraveling. I don't know if I did something wrong when I was doing the crochet reinforcement or what. I don't think I did anything wrong because I paid so much attention when I was doing this and also when I was cutting the sticks. So I don't know what happened, and After that, I decided, let me just put it here. After that, I decided that I'm not going to stick any sweaters anytime soon. It is too much for me. I don't like the process. I didn't really enjoy anything involving sticking. I like the final look of it, but it is too stressful for me. It took the joy away from this project many times when I was working on it. It was more stressful than enjoyable, so in my brain, that's not worth it. I don't want to knit colorwork flat, but I also don't want to stick my sweaters. That's what I learned from this project, at least not anytime soon. I need to forget the way I felt when I was working on this project before I stick anything else. I couldn't really try it on until I was around here, and by that time, if I found anything wrong when I did eventually try it on, I couldn't really go back because I already cut the yarn, so I couldn't really do anything to mitigate any fit issues. My brain needs to have more control than that. I'm seeing some stitches unraveling, so I'm freaking out that once I in fact start wearing this, things will go downhill really fast. But we'll see. I will report back on that for sure. But one thing that I learned from this is, like I said, I don't want to knit colorwork flat, but I also don't want to stick any projects. So that leaves me with what? A raglan sweater. I don't think that involves any colorwork knitted flat. So I think that's an idea. I'm fine with that if that's the case, because I love working on raglans and wearing a raglan sweater. So I'm fine with that. Not a problem at all, but we'll see. I want to take a break from colorwork projects right now and start working on more relaxing things. If I do end up sticking any projects in the future, I don't think I will choose the crochet hook method again. I think I would feel safer, let's say, had I chosen the felting method, because I don't think I would have encountered any unraveling stitches had I felted my sticks. I don't know. It's just what's been crossing my mind right now. So since this is a finished object, did I show you the back, by the way? I don't think I did. It looks really nice, don't get me wrong. I love the final look of it. I think I will wear this a lot if I don't see any holes popping up, but I'm really proud of it, that's for sure. I think this was one of my most ambitious projects so far, but at the same time, I'm not really that excited about it because, well, I didn't really enjoy the process that much. But since this is a finished object, let's talk about how much yarn I've used and the cost of this project really quick, because I'm really excited to talk about my lime green sweater next. Yarn amounts first. For the main color, I used 271 grams of my main yarn. The pattern calls for 300, and I've used 123 grams of the Mohair. The pattern calls for 150 grams. Now, talking about the contrasting color, this pink one, I've used 52 grams of the Merino. The pattern calls for 100, so I've used a little bit more than half what the pattern calls for. And for the Mohair, the pink Mohair, I've used 27 grams and the pattern calls for 50 grams. So yeah, overall, I've used a little bit less yarn than what the pattern calls for, and I have a few balls left over of this wine color, but I'm fine with it because I love this yarn. Now, talking about the cost, I've paid 90 euros and 69 cents for the yarn. That only takes into account how much yarn went into this project, and I've also paid for the pattern, which cost me 6 euros and 98 cents. So in total, the final cost of this project was 97 euros and 67 cents. And I am fine with that price point. if I in fact wear this sweater. If I get too afraid of wearing it because of this issue with the sticks, then, well, it is a shame. So I hope that doesn't happen. But now let's change it up and talk about my lime green sweater. So this is the Stockholm Sweater V-Neck by PetiteKnit, and the yarn combo I chose for this project was another Filcolana combo, also Arwetta paired with their Mohair base, but this time around I chose colorway number 379 Sprout for my main yarn, and I've paired it with Filcolana Tilia in the colorway 326 Metal. So this was my yarn combo for this project. Oh, it is upside down. But this was my combo for this project, and it looks so good. I am so happy with this finished object. I can't believe I like this sweater as much because of this lime green color. It is so not my go-to color. I'm so out of my comfort zone with this one, but I think it looks so good. Anyway, I've knitted both sleeves. I think that was the only thing left. Yeah, I had to knit both sleeves, so that's what I did. And last time I showed you guys this project, I had already started the first sleeve, hadn't I? Yeah, but I was still trying to figure out a good decrease rate to fit the way I wanted it to, and I finally figured out. I ended up doing like 10 decreases less than what the pattern calls for, and I also changed the decrease rate along the sleeves. So the first 4 decreases I did every 6 rows or rounds, and the remaining 10 decreases, the remaining 10 decreases I spaced them out every 9 rounds. So this is the final look of the sleeves on my Stockholm Sweater V-neck, but here it is. This completely finished. It looks so good. I already said that a few times, but I am so happy with the final look of this sweater. I'm also happy with the fit of the sleeves. I think I made the right call by not following the pattern instructions for the sleeves, because I think the sleeves would have ended up a bit too tapered for my liking. And when I'm wearing this, I get the feeling of a long-sleeved tee instead of a sweater, if that makes any sense. A long-sleeved tee, in my head, it looks a bit lighter and not as cozy, maybe, as a sweater, and maybe not as oversized. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I picture a different thing when I'm imagining a long-sleeved tee, and to me this gives a long-sleeved tee vibe. I think it will grow with wear a little bit, but right now it fits exactly the way I wanted it to. If it ends up growing a couple of centimeters, I'm also fine with that. I don't think it would change the look of this sweater that much. But one thing that I realized when I tried it on after I took it off my plucking mats is that I need to add simple projects to my wardrobe. I was looking at my wardrobe the other day, and I don't think I own a single plain stockinette basic sweater. I'm always looking for texture, cables, lace, colorwork, stripes, or something to add a little bit of visual interest to my projects. So now I don't think I own a single plain stockinette basic sweater, and I want to add a few to my wardrobe. This is the closest thing that I have right now to a really simple basic project, and it gave me so much joy when I was working on it. I am so happy with the final look of it. I am so excited to wear it. So I need to have a few options in this category, but that will come with time. Since this is a finished object, let's do the same thing and talk about how much yarn I've used and the cost of this project. So let me get my notebook once again. And for the main color, no, not the main color, the main yarn, my Filcolana Arwetta, I've used 302 grams. The pattern calls for between 275 and 300 grams of mohair held double. So if we divide it by 2, it is around, let's say, 150 grams of mohair. I've used 302 grams of my sock yarn and 144 grams of the mohair. So it sounds about right. I'm fine with how much leftover I have. I enjoyed this yarn combo and this color so much. I already want to knit something else using the same yarn pairing, but we'll see. Now talking about cost, I've paid 81 euros and 51 cents for the yarn. I'm not talking about my leftovers, just the amount of yarn that went into this project. And I've also paid for the pattern, which cost me 6 euros and 98 cents. So in total, this project cost me 88 euros and 49 cents. And I'm really happy with it. I think I'm going to wear this a ton. So I think it was definitely worth it. And we'll see what I will land on as my next basic project. But so far, this is it. Really quick update on my Stockholm sweater, but a really satisfying one as well. So now let's change it up because I want to talk about my new cast-ons. I am so excited to finally have fresh projects on my needles, and the first one is, well, when I recorded my spring knitting plans video, I shared that I wanted to knit something for my mom. And I was set on knitting the Soft Current sweater by Wool and Pine. It has a V-neck, mixing cables and lace. It looks exactly the kind of thing she wears on a daily basis. So I was really excited to cast that on for her. But last week, she saw that PetiteKnit had been teasing the Petra Polo, I don't know how to pronounce that. It was a new design, and she saw that on Instagram. She got really excited. She loved the look of that sweater and asked me if I could knit her that one instead. So of course that's what I'm going to do, and I've already cast it on. So this is, let me see a good way to show you this. This is my Petra Polo by PetiteKnit. I am using the same yarn combo that I had envisioned for her project. So what I'm using is Filcolana Alva. I've had this in my stash for a while now and I didn't know what to do with it. This is colorway 368 Eucalyptus. This is 100% lace weight alpaca, and I'm pairing it with this cone of Host Yarn Super Soft in the colorway Sage Blue. The pattern calls for, I think it's fingering weight cashmere yarn, but I already had this combo in my stash and she really likes these two colors. In fact, she was the one who bought this cone of Super Soft and she tried to crochet with it, but she didn't really like the fabric. She couldn't make it work. So she gifted me this entire cone. So I think it is a nice way to give her this yarn back, but in a sweater form instead of just a cone of yarn. So this is my combo for this project for her Petra Polo, and I'm really excited because I think it's going to turn out amazing because of the different shades of green that I have from my two yarns. The fabric it is creating has this marled effect, I'm still working on the yoke, so I'm not going to put it in the mannequin because I think it would fall right off. But let me see if I can show you this. Let me just add a little bit of yarn here. But this is it. It looks kind of weird right now, yes, but I think it's going to look really nice. Let me show you the fabric that I can do. Because of the different shades of green from my two yarns, I am getting this marled effect on the fabric, and I think it's going to look perfect in a StockKnit project. In fact, I think it's going to be even nicer than if I had just kept the soft current sweater idea, because this marled effect together with cables, lace and a v-neck, I think it would be too much for just one project. So I think this was actually the right call. I think unknowingly my mom made the perfect choice. I'm really enjoying the fabric, like I said, but also the way it feels. Rose yarn super soft. It's not the softest yarn out there in my opinion. So adding this lace weight alpaca kind of softens up the fabric a little bit, and I think it's going to feel really lovely next to skin. I've blocked my swatch and I really liked the way it felt next to skin, so I think it's going to be really nice. Now you can't really see now, but this project has a satin sleeve construction here on the shoulders. Let me just show you one side. You cast on stitches for the back. Here, I think you can see now. You cast on stitches for the back and then pick up stitches for the first shoulder. And then once you're done with this shoulder placket here, let's say, you pick up stitches on the sides of the shoulder to get this, can you see? I hope you can, to get this satin sleeve shape, and this is the front. I am doing a terrible job of showing you this, but I don't think I'm capable of doing anything better than that until I can join this in the round. Now, since this is a polo shirt, I am working flat, and I think I still have a fair amount of flat knitting to do, but since this is a polo shirt, like I said, the pattern has you add this kind of placket here on both fronts, and I think they will be next to the double knit button band. I think the button band is double knitted, but I'm not sure. No, it is double knit, yes. Now I only realized this pattern had a satin sleeve construction when I downloaded the PDF, but it is a happy surprise because it is the same construction as my Lyon sweater, also by PetiteKnit, that I worked on last year, and I love the fit of that sweater on me, so I think this is going to look lovely on my mom as well. And this pattern is also like 18 pages long. Why? I was expecting something easier, something more straightforward maybe. I mean, it is a PetiteKnit pattern, so it is pretty straightforward, but I was expecting like 10 pages of PDF, of a pattern PDF, and it's almost double that. So when I looked at the pattern, I was like, oh boy, what did I get myself into? Send help. But I think it's going to be just fine. Quick introduction to my Petra Polo for my mom. And now my second cast on, my second and final cast on of this week's episode of the podcast is a tee. I wanted to cast on something for myself, and I wanted to have a tee, a fresh new tee, ready to wear for when it starts getting really warm outside. So my first idea was to cast on the Avenue tee by Tori, like I already shared with you guys. But when I was ready to purchase the pattern, I wasn't really feeling it. I wasn't really that excited to work on the Avenue tee, if I'm being honest, because when I looked at the pattern photos, I could only picture it in a marled fabric, something like the fabric I'm getting with the Petra Polo, something looking like this. It is not a solid color throughout, but the yarn I had for my tea project was this Knitting for Olive cotton merino that I've had in stash in the colorway Dusty Blue Whale, this one. And it is a solid color, always the same tone throughout. I really like this color. It's my first time knitting with cotton merino, so I was excited to try out this yarn. But I don't know, I wasn't excited to work on the Avenue Tea using this yarn. So I decided to pivot, I changed my plans, and I am saving the Avenue Tea for when I get a more exciting, let's say, yarn. And I went browsing for another tea pattern. Eventually, I came across the Sea Salt Tea by Atelier Castin. I don't know how to pronounce that. I don't know if it's French or not. So it's the Sea Salt Tea, and I felt much more excited to cast it on with this cotton merino yarn because I can do a contrasting edge on the color and add a little bit more visual interest to this project. So that's what I did. I cast on the Sea Salt Tea, and this is what I have now. Let me show you. I don't think it would look good on the mannequin, so I'm just going to show you like this. But I've just joined in the round, and funny enough, this has the same shoulder construction as my Petra Polo or my mom's Petra Polo. So this is also a satin sleeve. Let me show you the back. Hopefully you can see what is going on here. Yeah, so this is the shoulder and this is the front. Now, I wasn't expecting to do many short rows when working on this pattern, but I really liked it. You start by casting on stitches for the entire back, and then you shape this sloped shoulder here with short rows. And once the back panel is done, you pick up stitches for both shoulders, join front and back, and then cast on stitches for the front of the neck here, but you shape the neckline with short rows. So this is what I have. I am done with the short rows now, and I've just joined in the round, so I still have a fair amount of knitting to do before I am ready to separate for the sleeves. But I'm really happy with the way this project is looking right now. I am working on a 3.25mm. The pattern calls for a 3.5 if I'm not mistaken. But this cotton merino yarn by Knitting for Olive is so light that I sized down my needles, otherwise the fabric would have been too open for my liking. I'm still not 100% sure whether it's still a bit open, but I think it is going to be just fine. Once I block this, I blocked my swatch and I got the impression that the yarn bloomed a little bit. So I think I'm going to love this once I do the first mid-project block. But working on this is really relaxing now that I've joined in the round. I am doing some raglan increases. No, I'm doing raglan increases with the Petra Polo, but this one I think also calls for a few raglan increases, but I'm still not there yet in the pattern. But it's really relaxing. I'm really enjoying it. What I really liked about this pattern was not only the contrasting edge, but I also really like the boxy fit. I don't have anything with that fit in my wardrobe, at least not something that is somewhat appropriate. So I'm excited to add something new to my wardrobe, and I think it's going to fit really nicely with a lot of positive ease, and well, we'll see what happens. Now, one thing that I really liked when I read through the pattern is that it includes charts for keeping track of the short rows and the neckline shaping, sleeve shaping, and things like that. Have you guys ever seen the PetiteKnit sweater spreadsheet, something like that? It looks similar to that layout. It is a table and you mark where you're supposed to do increases to help keep track of your work. And it is really nice to check the boxes. It is the first time I've seen a pattern doing that, and it is so nice. I'm really enjoying that. I want to see more patterns doing that. But anyway, that's it. I think this is going to be a really light and breezy tee once it's done. Lovely for summer. And I was going to talk about my one and only acquisition, but I think this episode is already getting too long, so I think I'm going to leave that for next episode of the podcast. So this is it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of the podcast. It was a bit all over the place, but sometimes that's the way my knitting life looks. So thank you so much for watching and spending some time with me. If you guys enjoyed this episode of the podcast and feel like sticking around, I would love for you to subscribe, give this video a like, and leave a comment down below. I always love chatting with you guys down there. And I think I'll see you next week with a fresh new video here on the channel. And until then, happy knitting. Bye!